Starbucks, who claims to be a progressive company and has been very, very said a lot of nice things about Black Lives Matter and other causes. They are now finding fakakta bullshit reasons to fire some of the organizers of your union in Buffalo. Can you kind of tell us what's going on?
Sure. I mean, this comes in conjunction with Starbucks cutting hours nationwide right now for workers. I have availability somewhere around 20 hours is what I would like to get a week. I'm currently getting 5 a week now. Some of my coworkers with full-time availability at my store and in stores around Buffalo and Ithaca, Boston, they have full-time availability. They're getting maybe 20, 25 hours. Workers across the country right now can't afford to pay rent. They're going so low on their hours that they're not qualifying for the benefits that Starbucks does give them. And right now we can only see this as a concerted effort to increase turnover and push union workers out. And along with that, if you try to get a second job, like Cassie Fletcher did at the Elmwood store, that was one of the first ones to unionize, and she drops her availability below 20 to meet the hours they're actually giving her, they fired her and said her availability doesn't work for the business. So this is kind of the catch-22 they're trying to put workers in right now across the country is we're not going to give you enough hours, but if you want to drop your availability and try to find another job, we're going to push you out because that availability doesn't meet the needs of the business, allegedly. So.
Well, let's call this what it is.
Yeah.
They're trying to retaliate against the workers who won the union, and they're trying to chill and scare workers at the other locations, you said over 100, from voting yes. And by the way, Amazon in Staten Island, which I've covered extensively, their election is on March 25th. It's actually 5 days, March 25th through March 30th. And Amazon managers are telling workers in Staten Island, "Hey, if you vote yes on this union, we're going to have to cut your hours. We're going to have to cut your benefits. We might have to actually fire people because we can't afford it." The $1 trillion Amazon. So what we're seeing is workers are winning victories, and what Starbucks seems to be doing is trying to retaliate against those workers and scare the living hell out of workers who have not yet won from voting yes.
Yeah, and I think it's Kevin Johnson trying to also, jack up the price of, the stocks, right now trying to cut labor costs as much as possible to get a good first quarter out while, you have this wildfire labor movement spreading, and it serves, I think, a dual purpose for them. But Starbucks, I think if anything, this is only galvanizing people across the country. For workers on the fence, Starbucks is openly playing their hand now, showing that, all the values that they talked about, we're a human company, we care about our partners, you're an actual partner, all that goes away when they suddenly have nowhere cut hours so massively across the country, you can't even pay rent. Where's the compassion? Where's the company that doesn't need an intermediary, a so-called intermediary or a third party like the union to come in? Well, the fact is Starbucks at any time could act like this. There's nothing holding them to account. This only highlights why workers at Starbucks and across, the service industry and so many industries need a union, because ultimately, if you do something the company doesn't like, they're going to come after you, and there's no one protecting you because, it's your own company that's promising you all these things are doing it.
Right. And also to the workers that are now being fired for these bullshit pretext, you don't have enough availability, even though you do, or you got another job, even though you still have availability for Starbucks. Buffalo, like, the rest of the United Corporations of America, has been gentrified to a hell in a handbasket. It's not cheap. Rent has gone up. I was only there for about a week covering your election and other stories, but it's not cheap to live in Buffalo, New York anymore. So cutting hours for people like you and others, it's an urgent issue to you keeping a roof over your head.
Yeah, definitely. For so many workers, so many people at my store, and my store isn't one of the ones that's filed yet, but workers are like looking for other jobs. They're crying. Workers are so upset. They're begging our manager, please give me hours. And the response that we're hearing from managers across Buffalo and across the nation is that, well, you should work harder to find hours at other stores. The onus is on you for not trying hard enough to pick up extra shifts at other stores, and that this is just what it is, and this is just going to be the policy for the foreseeable future. So I think it's Starbucks really, is coming down hard on workers. And like you said, the rent, like cost of living is so high across this country, especially in, metropolitan areas like Buffalo, that, we're barely making it as it is when we do get our availability and we do get the hours we request. But, when you take that away and even cut a third of those hours out, if not half or more, you're putting people's lives in danger, and their livelihoods in danger. So, yeah.
Feel free to chime in, Mr. Grumbine.
Well, yeah, I'm just thrilled to see young people, revitalizing labor in America, even if it's small drips, man. This is just really exciting stuff. I mean, but they do flex. They do show you once again where the power lies. And I'm interested. I wonder what customers could do, what potential customers could do to support you guys. Do you guys have a message to people that might patronize Starbucks that are sympathetic to union causes, what we might be able to do to help you all out?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if there's a union, a Starbucks attempting to unionize in your area, please go there, get a union strong coffee, let them know, the community has their back. If you go to More Perfect Union's website, they have a map of every location. That's the most up to date I've seen across the country that's unionizing. We're not recommending people go into stores that don't have a campaign yet. The whole country is actively, organizing, and we don't want, Starbucks coming in preemptively if they feel like a campaign's, someone's attempting to start a campaign there. But going into stores that are unionizing, calling Starbucks corporate, contacting them in any way possible on social media, and letting them know how disappointed you are as a customer and this behavior of the company. I think those are all really powerful things. And just standing with workers and getting that coffee, tipping when you go in, being nice, knowing you're not alone. I mean, that's the biggest thing, because so much of the union busting is the psychological warfare and trying to create conflict in the workplace and, alienate workers in their own workplace and make them feel like they're alone. So, that solidarity, whether it's from the community or your coworkers, that's what keeps people going and wins campaigns.
And Brian, let me ask you, obviously we're talking about Buffalo here, but Starbucks is also, I believe it was in Arizona. They fired one of the lead organizers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but she was going through cancer treatment.
Yeah, that was a manager, Brittany. That was the first store that we actually won. She basically was going through cancer treatment, was trying to take time off and still qualify for Starbucks' healthcare because she obviously needs it. She has cancer. And so basically when they launched that union campaign, basically in response to, her struggles and her being pushed out of the company, essentially, she had put in her, resignation. I think it was like a month, like she's going to leave in a month. Starbucks fired her that day, terminated her healthcare without, allowing her to basically offboard from Starbucks healthcare onto her next employers and, put her health at risk. So that was, what basically was the catalyst for the first store outside of Buffalo to unionize and win their election. I believe they won 25-3, which is our most resounding victory yet we've had. I mean, all the extra workers they brought into the store, because they've tried to pack stores across the country when they have an election coming up. Workers there were amazing. They onboarded them. They made them a part of that store community and just, dispelled a lot of the myths that, corporate, because they were training them outside the store, then bringing them in, basically trying to tell them how scary the union people are, how bad it is. But, I think Starbucks, the one thing that they do really well is they hire some great people, at that little like barista and shift level. And, the thing I think that's enabled us to have so many campaigns launching and be so strong is that, each store does have a really good culture because it's a difficult job. If you're not holding each other up day to day, it's hard to get through. So, I think we've been, using that to our advantage and using that to keep ourselves sane during this whole process.
Hey, let me ask you, who is actually supporting you guys in terms of guiding and structuring how you would build your union? I mean, are you all having advisors? Are you working with an existing union to help facilitate your unionization efforts? How's that
Yeah.
playing out?
Yeah. So we're working with Workers United, which is an affiliate of the SCIU. They're its own, while it's affiliated, its own autonomous union. It's focused heavily on local autonomy and worker-led bargaining and organizing. So they're giving us resources, especially the legal ones, which is critical. I
Yes.
think with any of these union campaigns, going in and trying to go your own way is very difficult. We're paying, at least on some of the initial filings, the legal fees were up to $10,000-$20,000 to file for each election.
Yes.
And that's something that's incredibly difficult to do. If you're just a group of baristas. So I think, it is a credit to the labor movement. I mean, it's important to have these unions with resources that can put them towards workers. So they've been amazing. But we've had Richard Bensinger, who is former organizing director of the AFL-CIO. He's kind of been our mentor in Buffalo and trained us in how to organize. But, now mostly we pretty much almost exclusively we're having workers organize to other workers. So myself, other workers in Buffalo, Boston, Arizona, they have already gone through this process and seen kind of what Starbucks does. We're helping other people organize, and we're directly, helping to take point on these campaigns and help other people win their union. So as much as possible, we're keeping this, organic and worker led.
And
Yeah,
last question, Steve and I talk a lot about stuff outside electoral politics. I don't think it needs to be either or. Like I don't believe in like the absolutism as like, I'm done with electoral politics, never again. But I think we all probably agree there needs to be a lot more emphasis outside electoral politics. So for you, I don't think I'm blowing up your spot. You're a progressive guy. I think you're a burner. About the collective progressive despair out there with a lot of things. Bernie, 2 campaigns didn't happen, rigged primaries, the squad not necessarily doing what everybody or fighting the way everybody wants them to do. But what would you say to the people watching about we can do things outside of electoral politics, even if viewers don't work at a Starbucks or an Amazon or one of these places unionizing? How could people get involved on their end to help these non-electoral strategies of workers coming together, local organizing, using leverage, which is what strikes are, union drives are? What would be your words to people who have become, rightfully so, Debbie Downers?
Yeah, I think, right now we're rife for, organizing, especially in this country, like you mentioned in the segment before, just the massive rise in inflation and the stagnation of wages that we're going through right now. I mean, we're still feeling the effects of the COVID pandemic and haven't recovered from that. And, what is potentially a recession that we're in right now or going into at some point, who knows? But yeah, I would say that like organizing, at least from my experience, has been one of the most empowering processes I've been through. I mean, because you're directly helping to build like democracy in this really small way, in a way that doesn't really exist, I think, in those high levels, outside of maybe you vote for a city councilor or something. And those are all very like one and done experiences, but when you're building a union, when you're building this kind of collective power, it's a constant collaborative process that you're engaging in. You're constantly like working with your coworkers and meeting people where they're at, and, but also pushing them towards something bigger in this kind of, grander goal. So I think, if it's organizing, if it's, and we're applying that same kind of like logic of organizing, coalition building, for local projects, whether it's around environmental concerns, workers' rights, supporting strike actions, or workers organizing. I think there's so much we can do because there's so much that needs to be done right now. So I think getting together and really focusing on, what goal do you have, what task do you have, and then kind of figuring out like the small steps to move towards it. I mean, that's what's helped us build our union, was setting these small tasks and then, moving towards that in a deliberate way. So I think there's so much to be done that people should take heart in, that, there isn't nothing we can do. There's everything we have to do right now.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern time.